Hello, everybody, and welcome to the series of 45 speakers, 45 days, 45 interviews with 45 minutes. Carly Spell in the house. Thank you so much for coming. How are you
Thank you for
today?
having me.
Are you well?
I'm very well. Yeah, very good. The apocalypse suits me, I think. The lifting of the veil, isn't it? It's had
Yeah.
its highs and it's had its lows, I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, I'm feeling pretty good, cleansing, rebirthing. I shouldn't use the term birthing, but yeah, I'm good. How are you?
I'm very
Other
well.
than on.
I've had a break from the interviews. It's
Yeah,
grueling.
yeah.
I don't know how these
Finished.
YouTubers do it.
I know. Well, it's no mean feat, really. I thought 45 interviews in 45 days and putting on a festival and doing everything else you do. You are powerhouse, dear.
Oh, come on. I'm bringing the big
I
arm to
know.
this party.
Bring the guns.
So I saw you briefly at a soiree that we were at.
You did.
Uh,
I don't think we're allowed to talk about it. It's a bit underground, that wasn't it? But it was
very,
amazing.
very. We all had our wellies on.
Yeah.
That's all I could say.
Yeah, no, it was
So
good. I loved it.
yeah, it was really good. It was really, really good fun. So I've known you since the very first Shine seminars,
Yes.
September 2021, and you have been a powerhouse of truth, light, and substance.
Oh, it's
You've
kind.
been weaving your merry way and educating us, bringing in codes, sequences, beautiful, incredible information, and I'd like to know what are your thoughts about what's happening at the moment. Where are you at? Where are you at with you and your talks?
Yes, well, I'm really excited actually for the Shine seminar. So if you've not got your tickets, do, because everyone's going to be there, not in a cheesy way, but that I am genuinely looking forward to it because there's so many people who I've met, touring about for the last 3 years as I've done, and they're all going to be in one place, which is so exciting. So it's a bit of a it's going to be a nice chill party for me and just all the information. I think what's going on out there at the moment for me, is, I've kind of come to the point where I'm telling people to stop fighting the system, really. Um, I've had a few run-ins with it myself. And it humbles you, the might of that thing, really. It's been going for thousands of years, and this is why I'm kind of saying let's box smart, let's be the banker, start to learn that you're a creditor, not a debtor, learn to offset, learn to discharge, because that does take the power away from them without fighting them. We know it's like an energy harvest. As I said, the legal system is it's like an energy looshing of epic proportions. They give you this unsolvable Rubik's cube to stare at, and that's basically what I've done for those many, 15-hour days and touring about like a mad woman with my projector. And yes, you were one of my first gigs. Saying not to sound like Mick Jagger or anything, but yes,
Yeah.
you put your faith in me in the early days. You were one of my first paid gigs, man. Yeah, it was awesome. But from everything that I've learned, I'd say in those last 3 years, it's kind of it's harnessing and breaking that down into a bite-sizable mean for people, and ultimately, really, it's learn how banking works, because that's what we're in contract and commerce. But the talk that I'm going to be doing at the Shine is going to be called the Law of the Law, LORE, the law, because really, when we kind of remember who we are, which is, you can only be sovereign in the mind. That is it. No piece of paper is going to tell you that. And this constant staring at this Rubik's kind of cube that I say, and it's all about Saturn worshipping cubes. Don't get me going on that. But it's then we're not living our lives. But you don't want to be staring at that. You've got to be doing the inner work. Yeah. And I'm really excited about Laura Eisenhower, because she talks about this time loop, doesn't she? And getting to the more spiritual kind of deeper elements of the law, about what's really going on, the codes, the symbols. I mean, they're telling us, aren't they? The great reset, and it's not just financial, it's a spiritual reset, and that I believe the same thing. I think it loops, which is why our history doesn't kind of make sense. Nothing's kind of linear in that way. So I think the great reset, and it's and re is no. Set means Saturn, Satan, set, this Saturnian worship. They're telling you that this, energy condensed to a slow vibration creates matter. And what gives matter legitimacy? It's time. So they're telling us all the time about time, and there's this reset that's going to occur, and it's a spiritual reset as well. And that's why, yes, it's, and Dark Matters, my new project, perhaps talk about it a bit more, is coming off Telegram, taking all the information of what does work and putting it all in one place, but with all this, turning knowledge into kind of occult, esoteric gnosis, in a practical way. So it's about resourcing all these resources on Dark Matters that we've got in this private network, and come and join us there. It is about resourcing yourself, and it is about, doing the inner work, as above, so below, and projecting that out, and I was running around like a lunatic telling everybody, look at this, look at this, look at this. But instead, and I wasn't really, I kind of burnt out in the end because I wasn't doing this as well, So there's a balance, isn't there, I think? And it is, the high priestess has the middle way, it's the middle path. So that's kind of the conclusions that I've come to in a nutshell, really.
It's that as within, so without, everything comes from within, and we are the consciousness that creates this observable reality. I think a lot of people in the Awakened community, they're awakened to the nefarious control systems. But the real work comes when you're awake to the power of who you are within. And that's where, I feel a lot of the community is moving. And we're all naturally just moving up. We're slowly moving forward, and we're watching each other do that. And some of us are doing it more publicly than others. So it's about creating that collective observable world that we want to live in, and actually taking charge of the material world, because it's we haven't been in control of that, and now is our time. So
I agree, absolutely, 100%. And like I say, if we're so busy filing papers and doing all this kind of stuff in the world, it's kind of be of the world, not in it, really. And that's, it's we've got to kind of have a, that's what the legal fiction is, really. You can utilize it in commerce, keep your foot in one canoe, but you've got to kind of remember who you are. It says that in scripture, and people who perhaps know of me, I'm not into religion or organized religion. Religion comes from religiare, to bind, to thwart, to hold back. It's about the whole system is a construct, it's a con, it's a fraud, and it is all designed to keep us looking out there. It's a distraction. They work in narratives, they work in it's like a, and I've said it before in my etymology talk I did at the Shine seminars. It's we're projecting it, so there's thoughts, in the beginning was the word, but before the word that creates matter, there's the the original thought. So there's thought, which creates the prism planet, So really, when we can kind of deconstruct the construct, there's a lot of information and misinformation out there, isn't there? It gets like, it gets literally so confusing. So it's kind of like, we've got to kind of go within and find the answers within. And when we realize that, that veil came down, which separates our conscious, from our subconscious mind, we've got all these demons, in the background in our own subconscious programming that have been running the show, because that's what we've been taught. We've been taught to be traumatized. We've been taught to compete with each other. We've been taught to, consume, it's always the cons, contract, consume, commerce, confine. And we've been stuck into these boxes, and Saturn worship loves boxes. It's all about cube worship. But again, we get into these deep kind of spiritual concepts when we start to decode the language, the forked tongue, learn the serpent tongue, again, as it says in scripture. And scripture, what is it? It's the greatest story ever told. They're telling you it's a story, it's a narrative, and it's for us to decode that narrative. And it's a kind of quantum narrative, really. It's got a mathematical interface. And then once you kind of get to that mathematical interface of language, and you are deconstructing that construct, then actually misinformation, information, it kind of, that paradox becomes fairly resolved. But that is that inner work. In a computer program, whether we're living in a simulation or not, programs that run in the background are called daemons, daemons, Daemon. So, we know that shadow, the healing and embracing the shadow within, you have to kind of go and face your demons, you have to go and fight your own Balrogs. And, as I've said, when you kind of come out of that, and they're not running the show anymore within your own consciousness. As we project that reality, then you start to create the Garden of Eden, which is what you're saying, Eli. I've seen it a lot in the spiritual community. We're moving from kind of looking so outwardly at what the narrative they're telling us and selling us, and going, hang on a minute, we'll be over here and we'll create our own.
Yeah, it's so powerful, that whole concept of just letting things fall away behind us and putting all our energy into the now and what we're doing now, and charging ourselves and being present. I love it, that phrase, the precious present moment. Because if you're in that present precious moment, there is none of that programming in the past, and you're not tying yourself to what you're going to do in the future, and you can be powerful in that moment and pay attention in that moment. I love your talk on the etymology, Carly.
Yeah.
I think that the breakdown of language is it's really amazing. When I first heard you talk, it really is so powerful, isn't it? When you suddenly realize that the actual constructs of the way in which those spells are created, and the writing, and how they are literally imprisoning you. And it would be amazing. I mean, wouldn't it be incredible in Richard Vogels's magazine What If if everybody was taught at school the real power of language. And I'm waiting for the book, Carly. Are we having it? Are you going to write?
Yeah, well, Darkmatters is basically a concept where, like I say, it's a place of resource, or you can go and resource yourself and connect with other like minds, basically, on the quest. For it is the question that drives us. The question is the quest. And I've said it before in an interview, and I'll say it again. In Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, the answer was 42. They all gathered around the quantum computer, for the answer to the meaning of life, and everything. And the quantum computer tells us that the people it's 42, and they're all very disappointed.
Yeah.
But it's like Neo in the Matrix, or Trinity says to Neo in the Matrix, rather. It is the question that drives us. Because if you've never asked the question, you're not going to understand the answer. So we can keep going to people. This is this idea that we kind of wake them all up. But we can't, because we've just got to plant seeds. Because if they've not asked the question, they're not going to understand the answer. So we can be there going, this is the answer, this is the answer, this is the answer. They're not going to understand it. They've not created that neural pathway. So one of my big things with Darkmatters is connecting like minds, connecting people to remedy, really. Not legal or financial advice, just entertainment purposes only. But if you've got assets, I'm here to give the meme, because why would you want to keep stirring at that? I did stir at it, and it's like stirring into the abyss after a while. And let the decoders decode. Let the people that want to grow. I better hang on. Let me snooze my computer. It's saying it wants to update. We don't want that. Chrome. Someone's trying to shut me up.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, because we're not, it's about vibration, isn't it, and frequency. And if we're not vibing high, and I'm not hippy dippy, this, Eli, but it's absolutely true. I think the new age is an absolute con. It's another con. That's just if we're constantly farting rainbows out of our bottoms, and being this kind of almost toxic positivity to a degree, in all esoteric texts and Gnostic texts, and it's all about the middle way. You've got to embrace you've got to tap into your subconscious. You've got to kind of hug your demons and fight them, for want of a better word, but then also embrace the shadows. And it is the middle way. So Darkmatters is very much a platform to connect people, and to share this esoteric Gnostic hidden kind of occult knowledge, because occult just means hidden, and turning knowledge and misinformation into, as I say, true gnosis. Because once we create those pathways in our mind, it's like the paradoxes all start to fall away, because they present us with duality reality. It's either black or white, male, female, pick a side. Well, hang on a minute. Come out of that and view the whole thing, and be the middle way, be the balance, be the sorcerer. Resourcing is about, and even in Freemasonry, it's always about the middle path. And it's, I think the dark exists to show us what we're not. I think 3D, and I know Laura Eisenhower, I've watched quite a few of the videos, she talks about this a lot. you know, it's understanding the game really a little bit, and certainly, you know, language and gematria, getting into, you know, that mathematical interface of language, you know, etymology. I mean, I love it because you misinformation goes out the window when you understand the code. It's, you know, it's in the Matrix, isn't it? You know, when Neo at the end, when he starts to believe his own power, when he starts to believe he is the Neo, the anomaly, and he starts to realize, well, then he starts to see the code. And I suppose that's kind of where I'm up to. You know, I'm not saying I'm a savior. You know, all this looking for outside saviors is their narrative, it's their constructs, you know. So I kind of hopefully break that down because you are the one that you've been waiting for, you know.
It's so interesting, isn't it? How they've every single part of their construct is to make us look outwards. Absolutely, it doesn't matter what it is. It can be anything at all, as long as it's not us going inside and actually doing that work. I saw an interview, I think it was with Laura actually, and Cyrus A. Parser. I don't know whether you know him, but
No.
he's a really interesting guy. He audited over the last 20 years the top 1,000 AI companies in America. And he wrote this book called AI, Trump and the CCP. And Laura said to him, what's the one thing that you would ask of people to do during this time? And he said, everyone needs to repent. Now, even though that's a religious term, it came out of nowhere because he was talking about AI and robots and stuff. And that is an actual truth, because what we do have to do is actually shed everything, including our own trauma, past trauma, epigenetic trauma, and actually become, you know, authentic, fresh, new, vibrant beings, being able to move up in the densities, because we are moving up in the densities. You know, we're doing things that that the human race has never done as a collective before, and I'm not sure how many people realize that. You know, this is our time for collective ascension, and that's, I mean, all the major religions say that in one way or another anyway. You know, I mean, in Islam they have Jahid, which everybody thinks is the duality of, you know, the West against the East or Christians against Muslims, but that is just the war of consciousness, the war on spirituality, and, you know, in that frequency of actually being, you know, attuned with the natural way of things, and with God, source, Father Sky, whatever you want to call it. So even they're right there saying, you know, that this is what's happening. It is a frequency war. I'm not against anyone. I'm not having a war with anyone, but they are definitely having a war with me, and I'm up for it. So, you know. You know,
I think we've been up for it for 10,000 years, haven't we? That's how long I've been told I've been here, you know. Like, but again, it does. There's a lot of women, and that, you know, there is this rise of the feminine. You know, again, it sounds quite cheesy, but there is, and you know, we've kind of, you know, this is why they chain the unicorn on. You know, you have the lion on the regal kind of symbols. The unicorn's chained because man doesn't understand woman. Eve betrayed Adam. You know, it's this kind of chaining of the woman. And basically, you know, we get the Rockefellers income selling feminism, you know, and you know, women go to work, women pay taxes, keep the women away from the children. The women all start acting like men. Women have been injected, or, you know, young girls have been injected with male hormones, and males have been injected with female hormones. That's an actual thing. I've read the papers. They've been doing this for a long time. So, you know, women are starting to act like men. We know the transgender agenda. And for me, yeah, they don't want us looking inward. They don't want us to remember who we are. This is why they want transhumanism. This is why they want to send us deeper into the dream state, as I would say, because you know, we know that really, you know, consciousness creates matter, not the other way around. And this obsession that the elites have with time, you know, El is Elohim, or the powerful ones. It goes back to archons. It comes back to our genealogy. You know, Genesis in scripture is genetics. That's what that means. And we have forgotten who we are. And it's almost like our ancestors are screaming at us, going, you know, from the other side. But I do believe it will be a timeline split of sorts if we don't get the ascension, if we don't, you know, as a huge collective. I keep getting this image of the Vesica Pisces, and if you look into sacred geometry, which is, you know, a very interesting study, because obviously everything's got these geometrical, I can't say the word geometrical, mathematical, structures to it. So again, it's another code, forget the language. The language is the forked tongue, the language is the trickery. And I love breaking all that stuff down. And, like I say, we'll talk about that at the Shine and come to Dark Matters, because this is what we do talk about. But like I say, I've studied this stuff. I've been awake over 20 years. And there's, we're doing the Dark Matters podcast to get guests on who know way more about it than I do. They call me the algorithm angel. I can thread things. That's what I like to do. Pull at the multiversal thread and see what kind of, and you can follow it. It has a narrative. Well, certainly one of the main things is, like you said, in all major, religions or philosophies, you've got the Trinity, the sacrifice, ascension, the polarity of light and dark, and the choice. Make the choice. But again, this middle way, this middle path is like, say, you've done the inner work, you've done the as much as you can. I had a Buddha moment like a few weeks back. I've actually physically seen them when I beat a couple of demons this last year. In my third eye, I physically saw them leave. And that was like, whoa, and then I got this Buddha image like about a month ago. Those are long stories, but like you say, like if we're not doing the inner work and we're not kind of, like I say, that this constant look at this, whether it's sex, whether it's commerce, buy this, or whether it's even the law to that point, or keep them looking at the puzzles, another puzzle, another puzzle, another puzzle, just to keep you, in that trap of time as well, because they are going to reset it. And when we say the great reset, like I said earlier, it ain't just financial, it will reset, and you will either ascend like this Vesica Pisces, the three. It's always like the Trinity, the three. You'll probably get these people on this timeline who have done the work and will create the new earth, not the new age, but the new earth. The dark want the new age. They want homogenization. They want you to lose your ego. They want like a hive mind of, cleanse your chakras and, this kind of fake pseudo spirituality. That's what they're going to sell. But then the middle path will repeat because they didn't make the choice in 3D. And then the other path will be maybe a dystopia. You chose that. So it could be like a timeline split. The elites are obsessed with time without me going into, massive, huge detail about it. But literally, the coronation of the king, the arcana of time, he walks through time because they are the holders of time. These elite families that we hear about, like the Rockefellers and all this. Oh, no, no, no. It's far darker, and it's timeless dark above that, because they control this illusion, or this illusion of matter with time, and time loops, timeline wars, and language. If the Vatican is the head of it here, and if the Vatican is the beast, then language is the beast system. That's 100% sure. It's unbelievable, but it will tell you who you are, and it will also tell you who you are not.
Absolutely. It's interesting talking about the Matrix. Have you seen the last Matrix film?
Yeah.
So what's magical about that film is that Neo doesn't recognize Trinity in the coffee shop. They don't know each other, do they? They've just got this. They've got this idea, haven't they? They're like, oh, we know each other, but we don't know each other. And then actually at the end, the most powerful thing at the end is when they come together and they kill the demon, they blow him away, and then they look at each other and they basically say, together we can do anything. And they fly off together. And that is a symbol of the alchemical marriage. That's what that is. And it's a really, really powerful way to end that film. And when I saw that for the first time, I was like, that is phenomenal, that it's come out of Hollywood, that it's written by the Wachowskis, who are obviously transgender now. It's above duality, that film. And that bit at the end where it says, look, if the inner work, the masculine and the feminine inside, when it comes together, you can just do anything. You can just create your own world, and it's magic when they fly off. I love that.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That is like, I'd forgotten the nuances of that. Wow, yeah. Because becoming holy, exactly. That's just an amazing synopsis, because holy in scripture is becoming whole. It's becoming whole in yourself. And again, the duality, male, female, well, you both, this duality, polarity, reality. No, when you resolve those things, and when the masculine returns, or the return of the king and Aragon, I've just put up a really good article in Darkmatters about what Aragon means in law. It all links in, but it's a long one to go into. But yeah, the return of the king. So when, in scripture, Cain slew Abel, and we know that the Canaanites are the knights of the old fake Jewish 12 tribes of Israel, but the fake Jews, really, the Khazarian slave traders of old, which are Baal worshippers ultimately. So again, learn your genealogy, start to follow those threads. But yeah, when Cain slew Abel, and that is kind of an analogy for the male kind of, again, chaining the females, like killing the feminine aspect in him. And we've been under the rule of man, which is why this lion, you always get two lions on government buildings. It's male. It's not like that. The
No.
Trinity is the creator, the all infinite. And then in this kind of finite octave, and it's like a frequency of music, the one infinite creator represents as male female. There's no other genders to make it to everybody, but it's male female. And when those are conjoined, when they become whole, when man integrates feminine, he returns and has empathy. He returns and starts to look after the land. And of course, it's the same with women. Women have to integrate the masculine elements of themselves, because then that is true. And when men and women come together like that, that is true divine union, and then they can't touch you. So that system of keeping men away from women is one of the biggest, as we know. Language, the division of the male and the female, keeping us disconnected from each other, and it's awful. Really, it's been an awful thing to see. So all the women are going, please come back.
Yeah.
But you can't demand things from men either. We have to. The women are kind of energetically, and we're kind of hopefully inspiring men to want to come back to us. There's the theory, but yeah, exactly that. And just as an extra point, because I can talk here, but in the Matrix, they always enter the Matrix with the Saturnian robes, with the black robes on. And it's interesting, in the last one, like you just said, in the end, they get it, and they've transcended this place, and they can then move in and out of it at will, don't they? Nothing can touch them. They've beat all those battles, they've seen through the code, and they're free of it. And that is that reset. You either transcend it, ascend, ending the trance, to transcend, end the trance of time and dream states. And that's why they want us in another dream state. They want us in virtual reality. They want us transhuman, because don't let them wake up. Shut up, we've got a lot invested in this ride. It's the same kind of thing. But yeah, definitely that.
I think it's interesting. When we did the Shine seminars before Christmas, we did the Divine Masculine, and then after Christmas we did the Divine Feminine, and I did those as two to join together. What was really interesting is looking at the difference between the reaction to the Divine Masculine talk and the Divine Feminine. And I will say this, that the Divine Masculine talk was, there wasn't as many people there. Darren Diogi actually said to me, I can't believe you've actually put that on a flyer. Because I said it's a celebration of the Divine Masculine, and he's like, that's nuts. And I was like, I'm doing it. Somebody's got to stand up and just say it. And it was a really great event, but the energy there was very wounded. It was it was really interesting. For the Divine Feminine, it was absolutely electric.
Yeah. And it's so interesting. It makes so much sense, because we have to lead energetically. We have to kind of inspire our men to want to come back and protect us, like help. We've all been kind of conned and fooled, but yeah, the masculine, absolutely, they're just so wounded. And I think when you're at school where girls kind of mature and develop a bit quicker, we've just got that. But we still haven't got the skill set of our men. Like, come back, But that's so interesting. I love Darren Diogi's work. I did meet him briefly at the Shine seminars when we both spoke there. But I only got there later because I'd done a talk the night before. But I'd like to get him on the podcast. I watched quite a lot of his videos and stuff. And obviously he did all the legal fiction stuff in the early days, back in the John Harris days. And so I'm hoping to do a bit of a network with him and drag him onto Darkmatters.
I'd love to hear you two talk. I mean, he does a lot of the etymology of the wounded male, but it's interesting about the females, because right in 2020, in a lot of the groups I was in, it was like, in fact, for the spiritual community, full stop, there's been very few men, and we've been holding light for the men. I say we loosely because, I wasn't involved in that, 20 years ago, but all the women are like, well, where are the men? And they are slowly waking up, and they're slowly getting to grips with it, and they have to look at themselves and look at their own feminine power, and they've got to, but mainly they've got to look at their masculine power, because what I found is a lot of the men are actually very feminized. They're very feminized, and they're a lot more feminine than they even realize. And lots of people who are supposedly nice blokes, good blokes, are just feminized. It's kind of sad, really. And there are people who I see, who I think, if you could just get a little bit more discernment, get a little bit more oomph, embody what you're doing a bit more, actually come out and do more, because that's the thing that men do. They do. The women are the creation, and they go, right, I want you to create this, go away and create it, and then we go away and do it. And a lot of the men are like, oh, I don't know how to do that, or oh, how do we do that, or really, oh, do I have to? And it's like, oh, no, hold on, that's what you do. So just go away, go and build a bridge or something, and then come back and we can walk across the river. Yeah, so I love all that. I love all that work, the male and the female.
I saw a really good meme, Eli. It was really funny in relation to that. It was a comedian guy, and he says they've stopped putting spare tires in new cars now because they look at the men of today and just go,
yeah.
No offense, guys. I'm sure.
Yeah, no. I'm not doing that. I totally get that. So with Darkmatters, is it? Are you just going to roll that forward? Is it something which is just going to grow as a resource library, and
Yeah, I'm really excited about it because obviously we've all lived on Telegram, but I'm never one for, staying static, really. I think that's the thing. It's not the survival of the fittest, it's survival of the adaptable and the aware, I think, really, ultimately. So Telegram, I think, it's so saturated, isn't it? And I've got an amazing file section on there, but it's all over the place. It's like a bomb's hit it. So what's ace about Darkmatters, the mighty network, and it takes a little bit maybe just to learn to navigate it because it's not like a standard website, it's the network. But I'm taking all the good files off my file section. They're all being put into an order, they're all being edited, so it's all nice and bonny. And then the idea is that I bring in other people. So again, I was saying I have done 15-16 hour days on the law, and I know I was relentless. I genuinely wanted to do it to help free people. I'm about debt and removing people from debt slavery. I don't go into family law. I don't, it's like any kind of solicitor, but we know what solicitors are, part of the bar. Tell you what's an interesting thing I learned, and this is the law of the law, just as a side note. The bar are actually called the Gala, still today, and the Gala were actually Sumerian demons that dragged the dead to the underworld, because we know that they are the reapers of the souls of the lost and the damned, and they keep our souls in the Vatican vaults. And Vatican means dog star, dog father of Sirius, and I'll be talking about this when I come down. And this is why it's so important to understand the language and the law of the law. But my passion was always about debt. Not that I have a passion about debt, but to get people to understand it, and to be able to begin to discharge it, because it's a shackle. It is the chain of slavery on us. We are debt slaves, we do it voluntary in our ignorance. So if we can start to, if you've got credit card loans or debt collectors on your doorstep, or, mortgages, whatever, any form of debt under the Bills of Exchange Act can be set off and discharged. We're just using their own rules. And there's people, like I say, who I've partnered with, as well as I do dispelling debt on there. That's a little space in Darkmatters. Well, say you've got assets, put them in a trust. You need to split the legal and equitable title so that they can't put a charge on the property. We've got people who can do RX1 forms so that these corporations can't come and find your corporation, your legal fiction, and put a charge on your property. Remove, if you're just basically splitting the title so they can't come after the assets. So, and we know, trust law developed, and has been used by the elites since the Crusades. So again, we're just using the systems, we're using the back doors that the elites, or El, Lucifer, Elohim, angels, don't get me going, but that they've used for a very long time. They just don't want the plebs to know, or the peons or the pursers. Now, you called a person, that goes into the limited company process. Truth Talks, Carl from Hornseywood Academy, he's got a space on Dark Matters. So there's people who can set up trust. There's people who can, if you want to kind of do a kind of a status correction process and put yourself in England and Wales jurisdiction and dock your ship, and change your status from a purser, which is a slave who works on a ship, to a director. There's people that are doing that, and they're on Dark Matters. There's loads of esoteric, occult information. I'm the, removing debt. We're dealing with, we're using promissory notes, things like that. So when I say Dark Matters is a resource, it literally will resource you, but it's full of resources practically as well. Because why stir at it? Why not come and join us and get the meme? Because let people live their lives, go vibing high. I'm happy if I can take all that and all of it. I mean, I'm not the messiah. I just mean I'll do my bit, and if we can take some of those burdens away from people in a practical way, and like I say, this word I keep saying it, but it's a big thing of the Dark Matters platform, resource people. And it's got chat in there, so people can all chat with each other. We've got testimonials in there where this works. I'm steering away, from the ego of it and the public element of it, because the light is on the ground for me, and I want to be like trying my best to help people kind of remove themselves from that system as much as possible. I mean, it's never going to be that easy, but actually, if we just learn to be the banker, we learn how debt works, then we can begin to free ourselves from those shackles.
Well, obviously you travel up and down the country, and that's something that I don't do. And I'm a little bit kind of like in my little Southwest box. But, what kind of appetite is there for this sort of thing out there? I mean, it's obviously grown, but is it sustained itself? Is it still, what's the feeling on the ground? What's it like in Northampton compared to Norwich, compared to Oldham?
Yeah, it's funny because I would say for the last 2-3 years I did, I was a mad woman in a beautiful way, hopefully.
Yeah.
But what I find is at the moment there's a lot of people out there doing a lot of things, and that's a really good thing because it's got bigger. So really where I was kind of, you're getting a few hundred people, 300 people in a room, it's gone smaller. So then I was just like, well, because there are more people offering different processes, different remedies. I think what happens is there's so much information, and again, it goes back to that information, misinformation, that people sometimes don't know where to go. And without naming any names, that legal kind of financial arena, shall we say, it's not alternative law, it's just the law, but just for ease, they all started fighting each other. And then it becomes everyone's attacking one another, and it's come from a certain set of sources, again without naming any names, but lies, misinformation, manipulation of people. So people are very distrustful of that movement, and I don't blame them, quite frankly, and that's why I've kind of stepped away from it, and I'm going into the podding, and I'm more interested in the language, in the esoteric, in the occult, and how you can turn that knowledge into a practical resource to remove yourself from the system. The fighting, the bickering, standing on a stage, shouting at people, shouting at the system, I just have no interest in it at all. So it's a bit of a funny one really out there, I think, at the moment, especially after a few debacles within that arena.
Well, I've always found that because you're dealing with such very strong and ancient control systems, the energy is very, very full. It's full on. It is the mechanism of control. So anybody who's going to skirmish in that world, as I call it, or actually get involved in those energies, you've got to be super, super strong. And I've never, I'm still, engaging with you. There are certain people in the community that I'm not engaging with anymore, because actually over a period of time, you realize there are some people who are doing it because they're completely activated, true and authentic beings. And there are some people who are kind of either playing around with it, which is very dangerous, or they're in it because they can see that there is reward, financial gain for it. And so it's a difficult world. And I always say to people, I've never actually said to anybody, I recommend this person, but I don't think I've even said it about you, because I don't think that it's one of those things that you can kind of do. But I have said, oh, well, go and see this person, this person, this person, and see what you think, and spend your time with it. Do you know what I mean? It's like, so I am recommending people, but I'm not saying go and see this person. I'm saying these people, I've been around for a while. I know them, and I know that they're doing good stuff. But you need to go and sit with them and be with them for a while, because it's heavy energy. It's really powerful, and there are only few people who, like yourself, who are actually standing up and taking it on, in such a full-blown way, because you are a force of nature, right?
5 steps off.
Yeah,
well, yeah, I've been told I'm magnetic and I attract the opposing force. So I think, people kind of love me or they step out my way, whether because that's just they don't like me or. But I'm okay with that. I mean, I've been called lots of things. I've been called Beelzebub himself. I'm a shill. I'm a demon. I'm Carly, the destroyer of worlds. I'm all kinds of things, and it's got personal, it's got nasty, and you do have to learn to develop quite a thick skin. I mean, sometimes it's gone a bit too far, but without getting into all that, I have no time for it. So it's kind of like, well, we're either helping people or we're not, and I have a bit of a networker of sorts, really. I know what I can do and I know what I can't. And I don't think I've ever said I can, contrary to what some people will say I've said. I stick to the debt. I stick to debt collectors, credit cards, things like that, mortgage issues, shall we say, without, again, we've got to keep all that in the private now. And because the day of sticking your head on the parapet about it is kind of over. I realise that. So, if I can't do it, which is a lot of things I can't do, tend to know someone who can. And that's what the network's about, there'll be somebody in there who I trust. So if you trust me, that's what trust's about.
That's it, yeah.
The only people that I'm allowing into Darkmatters as practitioners or people that I think can help with things, are people that I think are pure-hearted and that I trust. And in this movement, and I don't even like saying that anymore,
Wow.
is more certainly being separated from the chaff, especially now, especially at this moment. And again, it shows the people who've done the inner work. That's what I did. That's why I went off the boil for the last year. I'll be fully honest. I was in Hades. I was going through it, for a lot of personal reasons. So, I wasn't on the ball. I stopped touring about, and I don't really do that anymore. I think, right, let's box smart. Let's do the podcast. I got offered that with Drake Michigan, and check Drake Michigan out. They've got a space in the network, and they're doing some amazing things, and they're putting on the Time to Rise Festival, August 19th, 20th. We'll be there. Bit of a plug for them. But they offered me this opportunity after, interviewing me, because there's so many topics, what I'm like.
Yeah.
I'm doing it now. It's like my quantum computer is like, get it out. So it's such a beautiful opportunity to be able to slow myself down, to still have that balance of, focusing on my journey, my inner work, which I wasn't doing, and I wasn't looking after myself. There wasn't enough self-care, and I fell down in the end, but when I came back up, it's Phoenix from the flames moment. I like to think of myself as a bit of a whack-a-mole me. It's like they can bring me down, but I'll pop back up. It's like boing, 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 boing with a spell,
Well, I think it is that shedding, isn't it? I mean, we're all doing it. I just had a massive ego death about 2 weeks ago. It was massive, and it was just like, oh my god, what's going on? And it was like, shit, that's all gone now. I've done all that, and I've hurt. I've been through the pain. I've stepped into my shadow. I've cleansed it, and I'm done. And then suddenly I'm a different person, and I've got renewed energy, and I'm moving on and pushing forward and doing new things. And that's the human journey, really. And if the issue is that the human doesn't necessarily recognize that and is not aware of that, and when they get stuck in that particular phase, they're just stuck in it. And it's about looking at it and going forward. I've had to do things recently which I've it's been like oh my god, I'm really fearful of this, and I've just gone, no, I'm doing it. And in fact, I spoke to someone yesterday about this, about we've got to turn up. We have to turn up, and that's what and we're perfect when we turn up. The trick is to actually turn up. Last week I was really unwell for like 10 days. I was really unwell, and I had a load of commitments, and I thought I cannot commit these. I cannot not do these commitments. I have to just turn up. And I turned up. I went through the cathartic experience of turning up. I got loads out of it. I got my dopamine hit because I'd finished doing it and I completed it and I felt good about it. And then the next day I went into my next commitment and I felt really good about that. I completed it. I just turned up. And then the next day I just turned up. And if you turn up in yourself, in your authentic self, and you do what you've agreed to do, then you get massive amounts of energy from it. It's when you don't turn up that you just get stuck. And it is about arrangements, agreements, contractual with yourself. It's contracting with yourself and saying, I'm going to do this, and going through with it. If you say I'm going to do it and then you don't do it, your energy just disappears, and then you're stuck for a bit. So, it is that shedding. And I've seen you go through that process. I saw you go through that process. Well, the thing is that
they go.
Yeah, but the thing is, what's amazing is that you are shining your light, and people are going, look what Carly's doing. Yeah. And so they're doing, well, she's doing it, and look what she's going through, and actually I can do it too. And that is one of the things that I think is really powerful about what you've been doing, because you've turned up, you've done the business, you've had loads of internal grief and personal issues and everything, but now you're back, you've got brand new skin, brand new brain, everything's brand new, you're looking amazing, and it's on we go, and it's a great example. It's a great example, to do that. Well, it's true, isn't it? It's true.
Turning up, that is a massive thing, and I've had my fears. I don't fear death, because I know the infinite and I'm connected to my creator. Don't fear those kind of things. But I did fear, being put in a cage or going to a prison, or I've had my own fears. I'm not like this. I am a fearless warrior, but I'm also I have a vulnerability, and I don't mind admitting those things, because I think there's a strength in admitting that you can be vulnerable. And that's how we kind of grow, isn't it? And I think turning up for yourself. It's like sometimes I can kind of, especially when you're being attacked and things, it's like, don't look on the phone, I think, because it is awful. But then I kind of think, well, hang on a minute, just check your bad self. Like, you've got to kind of get out. You just got to do it. You've got to, no matter, you always, it's like, what's that? I put a good, I think it was a Teddy Roosevelt quote, and it's not that I'm into quoting presidents, because presidents in quantum grammar means a man who says nothing about nothing.
But, really?
It was
wow.
Yeah. And quantum grammar, I'll touch on that again when we do the talks, and it's all in Darkmatters, or will be. Again, with the Darkmatters thing, before I get to the quote, it's being populated at the moment. It's good. It's got the meat on the bones. It's looking really good. And I'm saying to people, the first 50 people that join and invite a friend will have a lifetime access to it, because it's going to have so much content. All the guests that we get coming on, they're going to have spaces if they want them in there. So it's going to grow, and it's going to be really cool. But that said, anyway. And it was a quote that said, it's called The Man in the Arena. And it said, the people that sit by the sidelines and basically point out where they could have done it better, where the guy in the arena made mistakes and, did something wrong or whatever. Well, it's easy to do that when, you're the one in the arena, and you're the one with the dust, the sweat, the blood and the tears, really, like you say, showing up and doing your best. I've made mistakes, I'll never say that I've not, but I've always kind of got on my steed and done it with pure heart, to the best of my knowledge anyway. You question yourself, but yeah, you've got to do it, and I like to say, some days I'll think, oh, I don't want to make that phone call, or I don't want to do that, and then I just go, yeah, you do. So I've been changing my mindset, and again, it's just changing those neural pathways where they might not, all this kind of you hold yourself back, don't you? You've got to get out your own way. It's that old adage, isn't it? Get out.
Yeah. You know what? It's a really interesting point you make there, because I've got an issue with a client at the moment who owes me a lot of money, and it's very delicate. And I'm just turning up, like I said. I'm just turning up to the meetings and the phone calls, and we're in the discussion, and I'm still in the game. And actually, there's a bit of a comparison here with what's going on with the obsoletes, as I like to call them, the obs-elites.
I like
that. In that, actually, what's happening for so long is that we haven't been turning up. The love brigade has not been turning up. Right. And actually, if we start turning up to the party, and I used this analogy the other day, it's like in Hogwarts kitchen, we can see Slytherin, and Hufflepuffles can see them, and they can all see each other. If we stand up and we say, well, we're the love brigade, we're the open-hearted human beings, they're going to go, whoa, they've turned up, you see, and we haven't turned up for years and years and years and years and years. And, we're so powerful that we don't need to turn up to create a normal, in inverted commas, life. But when we do turn up, we can create an extraordinary life. And that's what we're doing. We're just turning up and we're just going, look at us. And they're going, oh, shit, we've had it too good for too long. Look at these guys who just turned up at the party. And they'll go back in their box. That's what, you know.
In their box, exactly.
Yeah,
and they work. They love their boxes, they love their confines, they love their constructs. It's like you say, we just come at them with love. And we have to love the dark, because loving the dark out there means loving the dark in here. And once we do that and become whole and holy, it's the same thing. Then you're ascending. You know, it's so they're afraid of us in that sense, the obsoletes. Because, you know, as soon as we kind of, and I've always said that the only thing that can transcend time is love. And they use time to think us this has to be real, but actually, you know, and there was a good video on Drake, Michigan, with a guy called Lawrence, who said we are, you know, he has a theory that we are the fallen angels, you know, that we got trapped here. And it goes in with star seeds, wanderers, all incarnating because of the harvest of souls. The dark were locked in here, but Lucifer is actually a positive social memory complex of the sixth density. But this Luciferic consciousness came down and said, I will, you know, this in other sub-logoses, in other kind of octaves, this experiment of introducing polarities working really well for the one infinite creator, experiencing itself subjectively through their individuated consciousnesses. You know, you want to bring it in? And our God, Yahweh, if that's true, or the demiurge or whatever, went, no, they won't choose that. Well, let's give them the choice. And we did. Oh, the veil came down between the conscious and subconscious minds. And then apparently, you know, then the dark got locked in because our God of this sublogos was a bit angry at the whole thing. So the dark have outstayed their welcome, and it's time for them to kind of leave. You know, they've done, and they do it in service to the infinite creator. Now, this is where it gets interesting, and I won't bang on about this too much. Come and see me in Darkmatters, I'll be here all day.
Yeah.
But this Saturn worship, Saturn, Satan, Set, you know, Set is Satan, reset, matter, time. They're actually given a nod to Saturn because the Council of Nine, and this I'll go in with what Laura Eisenhower goes, and these are the Law of One teachings, which I read many years ago that I'm bringing back really full circle. It's gone full circle. They actually reside interdimensionally in the rings of Saturn. So all this, don't tell them, time slowing down this thing, and this nod to time, Father Kronos, is the rings of Saturn, which is actually the Luciferic families and the Luciferic consciousness who remember their incarnations want to go home as well. And they've done their service, but they have to kind of then go into 4D negative time space to work off their karma, and then they can hop back over. But ultimately, we are all one. We are the one infinite creator experiencing itself. But this logos, this octave is finite. It's the alpha and the omega. And it's controlled or condensed by time. So that's why the clocks are always on the government buildings. This is why it's all about time to the elites, the Luciferians. You know, dark to light is the reset to Lucifer. But Lucifer, the morning star, Jesus in scripture, and Lucifer were the same being because they are ultimately. We, you know, that polarity again. But when we come over polarity, when we become whole, when we can see that, you know, we step outside of that duality reality, then we can begin to be free, and it's a freedom of our consciousness, which is why it's the war on consciousness this time round.
Yeah, no, I totally see that, and I get that. I get that, and I've kind of looked at that idea of us being the fallen angels ourselves.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Because why are we in the material world if we're not fallen?
It's just... was that police song in the material world?
Yeah.
They tell us all the time, you know, in films, in movies, in language, in symbols, you know, like Manly P. Hall says, and I quote this all the time because I love, you know, the you know, when the human race, and hue of man in legalese means something else, but let's not go there. When the human race learns the language of symbolism, then a great veil will fall from the minds of men. These symbols, these pentagrams, these hexes, you know, hexes, Saturn, Satan, Set, the 666, matter. You know, in scripture it says, you know, the mark of man is the mark of the beast, and it is 666. It's just a code for matter. We've just decided, we've all forgotten, and we all think that we're this, when we're spirit having a human experience. So they hijack the pentagram, they hijack the hex and all these symbols, because everything's just energy. So they're just sorcerers, they're just black magicians, and that's what Black's law is, black magic, black, you know, the Magi Straits, you know, the email. Well, I've had an argument with someone about this, but I in quantum grammar cancels it out. So Magi is the magic. Now, Asian means the process of. So imagination is the process of magic. And we are all sorcerers, and that's why we need to resource and remember who we are, like, you know. And it's all in their codes and it's all in their symbols, but you don't have a negative symbol. They just have to use symbols and sacrifice rabbits and do whatever the weird shit the dark do because they're not as powerful as us. They need capes and daggers and rituals. But you say, like, we just have to turn up and go, hey man, we're full of love. Oh, those demons that you programmed in us, now we've made friends with them, and now they're coming to battle with us. So unlucky punk.
I did a talk last week about frequency, and we were talking about Dr. David Hawkins' frequency of consciousness. And if you actually look at it scientifically, you know, and you look at, you know, courage being at 200, which is the first positive emotion you've got, and then it goes up, acceptance, willing, etc. And you know, people like yourself and a lot of people who've done a lot of inner work as well as understand the darkness, that we're kind of resonating at, you know, 500, 350, 500, and all the darkness, they're not, well, you know, minimum. I mean, even in the crowd that I said to the crowd, I said, you're all at 350-ish. Everybody who's kind of awake is resonating at that. And I like that kind of, it's very male sort of scientific way of putting it. But you know, and they can't resonate at that level. It's impossible. They don't have that capability. So actually, it only takes a very few of us to actually really do the work and push them away. And people go on about, oh, we need numbers. Well, we do need some numbers, but we don't need anywhere near as many as we feel, you know. And
it's the quantum monkey, isn't it? You know, have you heard the quantum monkey? Heard of it, Eli? But for those that haven't, just as a quick one, these monkeys that were living on this island were eating the nuts. This is like, you know, they weren't emailing each other, so there's no way they could, like, you know, tell each other about this. And there's another island with a, you know, same species on another island. Anyway, Island one, they're eating their nuts, and one monkey one day goes down and decides to wash its nuts, so to speak, in the sea, and thinks, oh, those taste better. Anyway, now the monkeys on the next island, being, you know, however many miles apart, they started to do the same thing. And it was only took a certain amount, you know, because obviously it's like biophotonics. We know that our cells emit light and communicate, you know, we are luminous beings, are we, as Yoda would say. So, you know, that was communicated in the collective consciousness. And those monkeys, and it's called the quantum monkey. And like you say, you know, we don't have to take everybody on the planet, and you know, it is a free will choice. And however, you know, the dark have manipulated some people to take, you know, the short and varying things, and you know, unfortunately, it is a bit of a game like that. And I don't say that flippantly for people, you know, but it's a choice. 3D is the density of choice, and the people that kind of stood firm and went no. So, like you said, it don't take that many of us. We just have to kind of alchemize our, you know, it's these heavy lead frequencies. Like, it's all about frequency, you know, and that's what alchemy is, lead to gold. The serpent energy, the sine wave, sine is time, you know, that's why they're a serpent cult, you know, and they, you know, they want to keep us in these lower heavy based energies, like you say, densities, and matter is dense. But you know, when we all start to raise our vibration and frequency, I was doused by a good friend of mine, Rita. She's in the Western Supermare group, Rita and Norman, lovely. And I was doused, she doused me and I was around 300. And then I shot up recently. So I think I'm around 400 now. But since I've had my Buddha moment, it'd be interesting. Douse me again, Rita. I was going, douse me, Rita. You know, and Norman lovingly did my chart for me, which was so interesting. But like, you know, and again, you know, Laura Eisenhower will talk about this, you know, the alchemy of spirit. You know, we've got to kind of alchemize, we've got to transmute lead to gold. And it's not physically taking lead and turning it into gold. It's the spirit in it. They want to keep us trapped, and time creates matter. You know, time gives matter legitimacy. So we come out of time, we transcend the, you know, that trance of time, and we end it with love and higher vibrations. They can't. That's it. It's game over for them. They can't.
Yeah.
It's done.
We just got to be aware once we're aware of our own power, once we know who we truly are, then everything is possible.
Yeah. Yeah,
Charlie,
and the new age, just as a last thing to say, but this we're having Tony Sayers come on the second podcast. We're really looking forward to it. I mean, he talks about removing your chakras, that actually kind of ties you into this idea of new age 5D consciousness, that actually anyway, it's going to be a little controversial, but that's what we do. We ruffle a few feathers, we get things talking, so we're looking forward to that. But the new age, it can become a double-edged sword again. Yes, we need to heal, and yes, we need to do the inner work, but they want you, like I say, farting rainbows at your bottom, and that's kind of that's luciferic. If you're constantly in the past, looking at your past because you're trying to heal it, then they're keeping you in the past. And it's the same with language, adverb, verb. They keep us in the past and the future, never in the present moment. So it is about balance. Yes, do the healing in the inner work, but also laugh. Don't constantly stir at all your trauma, because heal it, transmute it, alchemize it, but then let it go. So it's like, just let it go, and then you'll feel, it does take work, but you'll feel lighter. You will be lighter. You'll be led to gold. You'll have alchemized your spirit.
Amazing. You know what? Our time is up, I'm afraid. And I'm going to leave you with that last word. I really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you so much for your wisdom and your knowledge and your energy. And I'm really looking forward to being with you at the Shine. And
I can't wait. It's going to be nice.
Yeah, it's really good. I'm looking forward to it. So we'll see you again, Carly. God bless you.
Yeah, thank you so much, my love. Thank you for having me. And we'll see you at the Shine.
Yeah, brilliant. Cheers.